I'm good. This has been the long awaited interview, I feel like.
It's been, I've been waiting for it for a while.
But the timing is perfect.
Absolutely.
It's all in God's time, right?
100%.
And you have been on such a journey. There's so much to talk about with you that I feel is just going to really help people out there that are going through the same thing or that are trying to make a change to better their lives in one way or another. Because first and foremost, you're sober,
Yes.
right? How long have you been sober for?
I will have 9 years sober on the 6th of March.
Wow.
So a little over 8.5 years now.
9 years coming up.
Yeah.
That's
wild.
crazy. So you got sober here in California?
I got sober in Vegas, actually, surprisingly.
Yeah,
That's the only
Vegas,
time
How did that happen?
The only time I've been to Vegas was to get sober. I went to the same treatment center out there twice.
Okay. Where were you before that?
Before that, I was in Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in Texas, just running and gunning, for lack of a better word. I was really doing some pretty damaging activities,
To say the least.
Yeah, to say the least, 100%. My addiction really took priority in my life at a certain point. I didn't care if I got a felony. I didn't care what I had to do. I didn't care about my future. I cared about getting high and staying high.
Yeah.
And that's what it looked like.
And what was your drug of choice?
Heroin. IV heroin.
IV
was
heroin.
my everything.
Yeah.
But I dabbled in a bit of other stuff as well. Methamphetamine, cocaine, alcohol. I would drink to black out. I was never the guy who had a glass of wine at dinner. It was not like,
me neither.
I wonder what this red tastes like with this filet.
Right,
it was
right,
I'm
right.
trying to drink 17 X-rated punches and be on the floor.
Yeah.
So that was really what that was about and how that manifested in my life. But I haven't had a drink in close to 11 years.
Wow.
Because I just didn't really like it anymore, especially after I really dove headfirst into my heroin use.
And how did that happen? What was the progression like?
Well, I started using opiates based on peer pressure, actually.
Okay.
Technically, I had my wisdom teeth removed when I was 17, and they put me on Norco afterwards, and I was like, this feels pretty good.
Yeah, and you'd never tried them before or nothing?
Nothing like that. And it just kind of ballooned from there. I started using Norcos pretty frequently, and then I found heroin through a friend who was like, I don't have Norcos, but I have something that's a lot better.
And cheaper?
And basically, that was what started my run.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically that the first time using it was IV, which is not the first time, which is not suggested. You know? And I just remember feeling everything just get quiet. All the insecurities, all the feelings of being less than. And I just remember wanting to feel like that for the rest of my life every day. And I knew that I would do whatever I had to make sure that happened.
Yeah.
And that's just an alarming way to look at things.
Right. I had that point too. Yeah. Where I was taking a lot of opiates and I had this conversation with myself, and I'll never forget exactly where I was, what I was doing. And I had just was in acceptance of I'm just going to do this. This is just what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
I'm going to die like this. And that's
crazy.
Fine. And that's fine. Not thinking that's a damaging thing to say, not thinking that that's not a normal way to view things. But in the moment when you're feeling those feelings, I find it easier to just sit in acceptance of that, no matter what the consequences are.
Yeah.
Right. Because no consequence seemed bad enough. I'd seen friends fall out in front of me, die in front of me, and there was nothing that was whoa.
Yeah.
My first initial reaction when I saw someone fall out was to hide my shit. You know what I mean? Hide my stash. And looking at who I am now as a productive member of society and sobriety, it's such a departure.
Yeah. Total opposite. You had somebody really close to you pass, right?
Yeah. I was dating a guy, and I met him in jail which, you know, my mom was like, what, you know,
Hi, Mom.
being the attorney she is, she's like, I advise
Yeah.
you to not do this.
Yeah.
You know, but the heart wants what it wants. And, you know, they talk about rehab romance. What about a
That's what I was just thinking.
jailhouse
romance.
Jailhouse.
Ow.
I don't even know what starts with a J that I could use, but jailhouse romance, we'll go with that. And he, you know, was found on the side of the road in Garden Grove dead. And I remember that was probably the closest that I've come to getting high since getting sober. Was
He died
experiencing that.
so this happened in sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
He passed in sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. How did you process that and not go get high?
It was touch and go for a while. What it really came down to was my support system, my sponsor, my sober brothers, my sponsee brothers. Like they showed up.
Yeah.
You know, one of my friends literally pulled me out of bed and put me in the shower. Like it was like that. I had just started a job in Los Angeles doing business development, and they wouldn't let me come into work. They said, you need to take some time for bereavement.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, no, I'm going to come in. They're like, no, you're going to take a week and a half off. You're going to feel what you need to feel, get it the fuck together, and then you're going to come back.
Yeah.
Right.
It's great company.
They were a great company. I mean, they still are, you know. I owe a lot of my ability to kind of stand, you know, stay standing to them. So I laid in my bed for 10 days. I cried and I cried. I didn't eat. And then I got up. I took a deep breath. I remembered who the fuck I am. And I decided to continue to walk through that grief and that pain. And to dive headfirst into the reason that I do what I do.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it took a while.
Right. And the support system was what was so...
100%.
Yeah, and people need to hear that because there's a lot of people that get sober and they don't get a support system. And it's a recipe for disaster. You know?
We find that a lot of people just, me personally, from what I've seen, because I've been in the rooms for a little while now, you see that people think that abstinence is all that there needs to be.
Yeah.
Right. And there's no design for living attached to it, that it's just staying stopped. But how do you stay stopped when there's no design for living?
Exactly.
Right. So,
yeah.
Working the steps with guys, helping others is a big part. It's something that I've struggled with in the past because around COVID, I took a big step back from the program. And I got miserable.
A lot of people did. Yeah.
Not happy. But then the idea of like coming back into the rooms after being gone for years and people being like, oh, how's he doing? You know, of course, fueled by pride and ego, right? Being able to just let go of that and realize that I was just doing what I needed to do to like stay sober, which I am deserving of. It changed the narrative. It really did.
So when you were younger and you said that, you know, it quieted all these voices of you not being enough and the insecurities, did you realize what was going on back then? Or were you just like, I don't care? Like how bad, when did you realize, I guess is the better question. When did you realize like, I have to get some help?
Oh, Lord. I realized that it was time to get help when it wasn't just about getting the attention of my parents anymore. When there was an undeniable sickness that came with it. And when I realized that I was more afraid of detoxing than I was of ODing.
Yeah.
That was a telling tale.
Can you say that one more time? Because I think that's so good for people to hear.
Yeah. I knew I needed to get help when I was more afraid of withdrawing than I was of ODing, of dying from the substance use. I was ready to die if need be. I was not ready to detox because that feeling of crawling out of my skin where your palms are itching. Like, I mean, I can't even describe the amount of pain that I was in. And the thing that was so damaging and dangerous about it was the fact that I knew exactly what to do to make that all go away.
Yeah.
And I had to sit in that feeling of discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to not go do the one thing that I know would take it all away.
Mm-hmm.
And all I had to do was walk out of the center. All I had to do was walk out of my room, go
Yeah.
downstairs, and leave. And I could do that if I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But like, at what cost, right?
Yeah.
There were a lot of moments in my first 30 days where I was sitting there like, okay, am I going to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Can I do this? Am I deserving of this?
Mm-hmm.
I've done a lot of fucked up shit. I've seen a lot of fucked up shit. How am I going to let go of that?
Mm.
Where's my freedom? You
Yeah.
know?
And what kept you there?
At first, it was my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Wanting her to get some good sleep for the first time in a while.
Yeah.
You know? I really wanted to do right by her. Despite how I felt about myself, she has put so much of her life on hold to make sure that I was safe and provided for, that I felt it was only right to like give it a shot for her. And if you end up liking it, good. I told myself, give yourself a year sober, no nothing, no drinking, no smoking, no shooting heroin,
Yeah.
and see how much
thing,
better
yeah.
that little thing, you know, see how much better your life gets. And and by God, it got good.
Yeah.
It got good, but I also realized that just because I put down the drugs, there were other causes and conditions
Right.
that very much took over my life in a different way and brought me back to my knees in a completely different way that was not related to getting high.
Mm-hmm. What were those things?
Well, for one, shopping.
Okay.
I am 100% a shopping addict for sure. Not like super to my detriment or anything. Like I'm not gonna I'm not gonna go buy shoes before I pay my rent. You know what I mean? But I definitely enjoy nice clothes and you know all that shit. But the main one would be my eating disorder. So I have struggled with disordered eating long before I struggled with drugs.
Wow. How did that start?
Dance.
Okay.
So I used to dance, and all the guys were smaller than me. They always were. And I was always being told, like, you're big, you need to be smaller. You need to be smaller, you need to be smaller. And I guess it kind of subconsciously created this narrative in my head that where I saw width and weight, I saw a lack of value. Right.
Yeah.
And that narrative was subconsciously in my mind through all of my struggles. So I kind of like started just like restricting really bad. And then once I started using heroin a lot, it like moved to bulimia because I was getting so sick all the time anyway that I just kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, but this might be a little much, but when I was getting sick off of heroin, it felt good. So like I didn't feel bad about adding like the fact that I'm eating and then getting rid of it on top of it. It was more of a control aspect for me. When I got sober, I found comfort in food.
Yeah.
Right. And so I started overeating. And then right before I had another example of my disorder would be the fact that I had gastric sleeve surgery. And a big part of that surgery for approval through insurance is they ask you if you've ever suffered from an eating disorder. I lied on that eval because I knew if they knew that I did, they would not approve me for the surgery.
Okay.
And so I lied on the psych eval to have a doctor go into my stomach and remove 80% of it permanently, which has completely changed how my body works, the vitamins that are produced, everything, because of my disorder. Because my disorder told me, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and did you talk to anybody about this? Like when you're in treatment, was it?
no.
No.
No. So this was, I mean, I spoke on it at Desert Hope a little bit, but I didn't give it nearly the attention that it deserved, because if I had, it would have been, I mean, there would have been a much different outcome.
Yeah.
But the thing that I really struggle with is how hard life got as a result of just that alone. Body dysmorphia, the narrative in my head, the weight that a scale has over my day, which is still things that I struggle with today.
Yeah. Like, what does that look like?
I wake up, I have a compulsive need to check my weight.
Do you have a scale? Okay.
I should probably get rid of it.
Probably.
I've done that like 3 times though. I've gotten rid of 3 scales and they somehow end up like coming back.
Yeah.
Or I go out and buy another one. You know? Full disclosure, just being real.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes when I eat, there's like an overwhelming urge to just get rid of it. You know, and it's something that I realize that I will struggle with for the rest of my life, because it's, you know, disordered eating recovery is not like, it's not like substance abuse recovery. You know, day to day, you know, things can change in an instant, as can happen with sobriety. But once you've been away, you know, stopped for a while, your defenses are stronger, right? But without the proper support system in terms of disordered eating recovery as well, you will fail.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts, because it is a control thing. For me personally, I can speak to my experience with it. When I feel like everything else out here is like spiraling, I'll go here, because that makes me feel secure and safe. And even though that is just absolutely batshit, it's what life looks like sometimes.
It makes sense to you.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But therapy is a very powerful thing.
Yeah. Like, what does treatment look like? Like, what has that journey been like for you?
A number of therapists getting scared because they want to dive deep into me. And in my mind, I subconsciously think, I'm sober. So I've done all I'm 8 years sober. So I've done all the deep digging that I need to do. And I'm a little scared of what's going to happen when I rehash some shit. Right. And so that's what keeps me sick, is that there is a big time fear of looking at me, because ultimately that's the reason I do what I do. And in the illness realm, you know, is because when I look at me from an eating standpoint, despite the fact that I've lost 165 pounds in the past year,
which we're going to go into that.
Despite that fact, the view I still see of myself, I still see 165 pounds heavier, and I can't change it. So it's scary.
Yeah. So 13 months ago, next month? Right?
This month. Yesterday.
Oh, yesterday.
Yeah.
So 13 months ago, yesterday, you made that decision.
I did.
To lie.
Yes.
Right? And undergo life-altering, life-changing surgery, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Obviously, it was going to change everything, but you still were like, no, I'm going to do this. I need to do this. And so you did it. Did you feel immediate relief? What did it feel like when you woke up from that?
Oh my God. It felt like it felt like someone had sliced my stomach open and removed a lot of it. Like that's
literally what they did.
Like literally what
that.
they did.
Yeah.
It Jesus. Was, I remember waking up and I was looking around and I saw my mom and she said, "How do you feel?" And I said, "Ouch." You know, coming out of the anesthesia, like just kind of, you know, just looking like an idiot. And so I came to, and they gave us these little 1 ounce cups full of like water or like Crystal Light or whatever. And you had to be able to drink one of those ounces every 15 minutes.
Okay.
Right. And it took me all day to do that 5 times
Why? What was happening?
because it was your stomach is so swollen.
Oh.
And so they had me like get up and like walk around and stuff. And it was just, I was like, oh God, what have I done?
Yeah.
You know, there was that moment, but I was also like really excited because I'd seen a lot of transformation photos and stuff of what had happened for other people. And I was excited for that to happen for me. I did not know that I would be the 1% of the people of the population who gets the surgery that had every complication known to man around this surgery, and would end up in the hospital for 64 days as a result of that. I went home for a week, and then I went back in because I could not hold anything down and I was super dehydrated. And so I wanted a banana bag full of like vitamins and fluids because I was told to like go and get that when you're feeling dehydrated. They took my labs and saw that I had like acute pancreatitis, right?
Yeah.
As a result of like rapid weight loss. Because that first week after the surgery, I lost 40 pounds.
Jesus. 40 pounds in a week? I didn't even know that was possible.
It was wild. It was wild. I want to say it was like between like 36 and 40 pounds, something like that.
Wow.
Like it was a stark difference because I couldn't eat anything. And I was used to eating a lot.
Yeah.
Even though near the end of my...
Did you feel hungry?
No. No. Eating was a chore. Eating was a chore. It was a necessity. But they also had me on a liquid diet. So I was supposed to like just drink protein shakes.
Yeah.
You know, for the first like 6 weeks after surgery. And so people are dropping 50, 60 pounds in that first month and a half, 2 months of that post-surgery anyway, right? But my body, due to the disorder that I'd had for most of my life, just shut down, essentially.
And they still don't know at this point. Did they ever know that you had an eating disorder?
Oh, no, they know. They know now.
They know now. Okay,
yeah, they know because my surgeon called and he's like, why are you in the hospital? Like, what's going on? And I told him. And he's like, okay, well, obviously I wouldn't have done the surgery had I known this. And I said, I know. That's why I didn't tell you. You know? And he got very frustrated with me because he's like, he's like, what are you going to do? And I was like, don't worry, dude. I'm not going to sue you. Like, this is my fault.
You're
you know
good.
what I mean? Like, you're fine. Like, no malpractice. But, I just need to be honest about it. But that 64 days in the hospital was a very dark time. I was very lonely there because they moved me to Cedars-Sinai. So I was in Beverly Hills. I have a handful of really close friends in LA. They came up and saw me, but not a lot of people from OC came up to see me. And that's where I got sober. You know what I mean? So I expected my support to be a lot stronger from that area in particular.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. And so, I mean, there was a 30-day period where I just laid in the dark room. I didn't have them open the blinds. I didn't turn the TV on. I just laid there.
And what was that conversation like with yourself laying there?
Well, here we are.
Were you in acceptance? Yeah.
I was in acceptance. I also was loaded as shit. They had me on a ton. They had Dilaudid and Oxy, and I was just kind of sitting there in a fog for 30 days. You know, because when those meds weren't in, I've never experienced pain like pancreatitis. I have never experienced pain like that.
I've had it 2 or 3 times, unfortunately, the acute, and it's screaming pain. I was dating a guy at the time. He had to run out of the room when I was. Like when my meds would wear off. Yeah. Because it was just instantaneous. Like it was like getting hit in the kidney with a hot bat. Like I totally understand. I've never experienced anything like that. Yeah. I get it.
It just brings me right back, man. Yeah. Right back, you know.
So you're just loopy in there.
I was just loopy in there. And my mom came in because I spent my birthday in the hospital and she came to visit me again. And I saw her and she was like the first familiar face that I'd seen in like 26 days. And she just came up to give me a hug in the hospital bed. And I just put my head like right in her chest and just sobbed. Just sobbed. It was so nice to see like a friendly face who didn't work at that damn hospital, you know? And we sat there and we had a lot of conversations about like, you know, how good life is going to be and how my mom is so positive. And I was just not trying to hear any of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
bless her heart, because she kept trying. She would take me on walks. We would go down to, there was like this little garden, this like rooftop garden, which was below me because Cedar Sinai has tons of floors.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we would just sit out there and I would just look at the street and just wonder, like, am I ever going to get back out there? You know, because it
Yeah.
felt like a long time. Like 2 months is a long
Oh yeah.
time.
You must start to feel like you're going crazy.
And I had all these machines
Yeah.
and everything. And there's like some pictures on Facebook where I'm standing there and they were
I
like
saw
right when the
those.
weight was starting to really come off. And I just looked so ill.
It was
I had all
scary.
these machines attached to me.
Yeah.
It was touch and go for a while. They had to take out my gallbladder. I mean, there was just a bunch of stuff that I had to go through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they put a 6.5-inch piece of metal down my throat to like open my stomach. I mean, it was just wild, all the stuff they had to do. And I sat there alone for most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to get real comfortable with myself.
Yeah.
But there were still things that I refused to look at while I was by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Where is this coming from?
Yeah.
Where are these feelings of inadequacy coming from? And why I'm losing all this weight? Why don't I feel happy? This is what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm scared, you know, because I got to go home for 6 days in between hospital stays.
Mm-hmm.
I lied to the doctor, said I was feeling great. I want to go home. They sent me home with a PICC line in my arm that was feeding me because I could not eat anything by mouth still.
Yeah.
And I woke up on day 7 in like the most severe pain. Again, pancreatitis had come back, and my boyfriend had to call the ambulance to pick me up from my apartment because I was like, I can't sit in triage and wait for hours. I can't do it. And then they put me in Hoag Irvine. I was there for 12 days, and then they sent me back to Cedar Sinai for another 3 weeks. And you want to talk about like just a paralyzing fear. I thought that like what I had done to myself was going to be like, I thought that my life was going to be like this forever. That I was going to be in and out of the hospital forever because like I shouldn't have done this.
Yeah. Did you essentially go through like the stages of grief?
Yeah.
You know,
Of like who I used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still Satch, you know what I mean? Like I'm very much still the same person, but a big part of my likeness in my mind was sharing dinner with people, having big dinners, big events, like larger than life, and having really good food. And now, like, I'm lucky if I can eat like 4 or 5 ounces of solid food at a time. You know what I mean? Like I'm like eating a piece of like a bite. Like I went to Panda Express the other day and I got some teriyaki chicken and some fried rice in a bowl. Right. Which is like the smallest thing you can order there. And I like cut up the chicken and I like tried to eat like a whole piece, which was like, not like, you think about a piece. I'm not talking about like a whole chicken. Like
just
it's
like one of the
just you cut it like a slice of chicken, and I like ate it and I chewed it too fast and swallowed it too fast. And I got sick. I'm just like, well, now I don't even want to eat this anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so eating has become a necessity for me. But it's also something today that gives me a lot of fear. You know?
Yeah. And I imagine because this was the inward work you needed to do, not just the weight loss, that it was, you know, the surgery doing all this was a Band-Aid. So when did you start learning the lessons? When did you start growing through it and understanding why you were really doing this? I mean, have you dove into that work yet, or is you still in that process?
It's always a process.
Yeah.
Right. But I've done some work, you know, the main question is, what is your voice saying to you? Right. And I think a lot of it comes from this place of like unhealthy relationships in the past with myself and others, and why it makes me act out in other ways. Right. Where does that come from? I don't really have an answer for that because it's just a lot of self-discovery.
Yeah.
Is what's required. But I know that I want other people to feel good, right? I want other people to be happy. I want other people to feel supported. So like, why can't I have that myself? Why do I feel like I'm not deserving of having that myself at times? Some days I feel great. Some days I feel like I'm on top of the world and life is so good. And I just want to share that feeling with other people. And then there are other days where I will look at myself in the mirror and I will see like some extra skin or like, or I'll feel like my pants are fitting weird or my shirt is too tight, and it will just dictate my entire day.
And how do you get through those days, those hard days? What do you do?
I realize that feelings are not facts. Feelings are not facts. And that is, we're at war every day. It just looks different, especially as addicts in recovery, right? Especially in eating disorder recovery, I am at war with myself and the voices in my head and my thoughts every single day. And sometimes it's exhausting, but a lot of the times it's very humbling and really rewarding too, because like what a complex mind I have as an individual, we have as people, that's what makes it beautiful. The struggle is oddly inspiring, but it is exhausting at times.
Yeah.
100%.
But it is who you are.
But it is. I mean, it is. I need to be more okay with showering myself with like love and acceptance the way that I do that for other people. Because I like to think that I show up for people.
Absolutely.
But I don't show up for myself the way that I show up for other people.
Yeah.
And I deserve the exact same amount of respect, if not more.
Absolutely.
And
I think sharing this is a way of showing that and giving yourself that self-love, because being vulnerable and talking about these things,
it's uncomfortable.
It's so uncomfortable.
It's hard because.
But it's that healing process.
100%. But the thing is that like I have made a career for myself out of being put together, and positive.
Yeah.
And this is a part of me that I have had for a very long time that not a lot of people have known about. There are a few people in this field that know of my struggle, but I decided to speak on it more because I realized that there is an underwhelmingly low amount of people that speak up for men who have disordered eating histories, right?
Yeah.
There's a stigma and a shame surrounding it.
Why is that?
I feel like because it's usually in people's minds specifically, it is a female-dominated disorder. The females talk about it. The men don't because they feel that they will be categorized with the females. Honestly, I don't give a shit. Like, listen, I'm a man who I'm bulimic. I am, in recovery from it, but it's hard. It's a struggle. But I also don't want people to think that I'm just like some dude who's just a basket case. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like sitting here like throwing up every day. Like that's not what my life looks like anymore.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of internal work that needs to be done in order to achieve long-term sobriety or long-term recovery from something like that. And I'm just going through the motions because it's like a roller coaster.
Yeah. And I love you sharing on this in this way because it's showing people that, it's not just rainbows and butterflies, and it's not like, okay, I'm healed now and everything's great. Like it is a struggle and it's different for the other person than it might be for you, but nonetheless, it is like a roller coaster and we all have our ups and downs and it is a journey. What would you tell somebody out there that's struggling with this right now and they're watching you and going, God, I don't know what to do?
Well, first things first, it's hard to seek help in silence. It's always very important to reach out to somebody. Cast your fear of judgment aside because there are so many people that are so similar and have such a powerful testimony. I've seen my entire life change in the past like year, but more so in the past like 3 months. And my whole goal is to constantly be evolving and growing in some way, shape, or form. And that wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't have asked for help. None of this would be possible, but at the same time, it's a beautiful thing that we get to experience. This life that we're given, we only have one. try to figure out where you are. And because people are at various stages. Some people think that life is worth it, and other people are so sick that they don't feel like it is right now. And my prayers go out to those people because I was that person. Now, regardless of what I struggle with today, I still see that life is worth it because I see a lot of beautiful things every day. I see a lot of beautiful people that were placed in my life by no move of my own, you know, and that's what it comes down to. We have an obligation to show up for ourselves every day. Every single day. There's an opportunity to grow or to fail. And those are both a part of life, right? I failed at more things than I want to count, you know?
Yeah.
But I've also been successful at more things than I can count.
Yeah.
And there's a fear of success and a fear of failure that both are hand in hand. You know, you can't have one without the other, to be honest, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Don't give up on yourself. Keep fighting. And just realize that there are really good people out there that can help you walk until you can stand on your own 2 feet, because that's what I've had to do several times throughout this journey, especially more so lately.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
So for friends, family, loved ones, you know, they're thinking that maybe someone close to them has an eating disorder. And I know it can kind of be this like, oh, should I say something? Should I not? What are those warning signs, red flags that someone should be watching out for if they think that person might have an eating disorder?
Well, I'm going to speak from personal experience.
Okay.
So if they're always like after meals, if they're in the bathroom, you know, like right afterwards, that's a warning sign. If their skin tone is a little gaunt, also a sign lack of nutrition, especially like around the cheeks. Let's see, if they're just not eating, if you're never seeing them eat, you know, just it's okay to hold them accountable. Just say, hey, I'm just worried about you. That's totally fine. For me, though, I would disguise it as being sick, you know, but then I was like always sick.
Yeah.
And then they're like, that's weird because you look fine, you know, until we eat, you know. That's just like where it starts for me, really. There's a lot of shame around it, so it's not necessarily going to be the easiest thing to talk to somebody about. You know, unless someone's just like fine, it's like waiting for you to call them out on it, you know, in which case they're like, yes, that's what's going on and I want help, which is a very small portion of the population that struggles with this because we like, it's our control, right? So I want to keep that close to me so that nobody can take that away from me, because if that's gone, then what do I do next? Yeah. You know?
Yeah. When you say your life has changed a lot in the last 3 months, what does that mean?
Well, I was in business with some people. I opened an outpatient program with them to help people who struggled from primary mental health issues. I took a step away from that, which was a huge leap of faith because I realized that I just wanted to focus on putting people back in treatment, helping them get help. And I feel like we'd taken a step away from that with what I was doing. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I got to learn a lot. I got to experience a lot of really cool things. But ultimately, it was just time to go in a different direction. And making the choice to do that was really scary. Yeah. Because I had viewed that as a safety net. And I thought it was always going to be there. You know, I didn't see the partnership dissolving the way that it did. But I'm grateful for what I gathered. You know, people gave me an opportunity, a shot at something that I never thought I'd be able to do, which was be an owner. Yeah. It just wasn't a fit. Yeah. You know, and so I left and was fun employed for 2 months.
Fun employed?
And I, you know, had a lot of conversations with God. I was scared. I was scared. I got this opportunity. And I was afraid that I wasn't going to be able to do it because I'd been told for a while that the way I did business development and stuff like that wasn't enough, wasn't good enough, you know? And so I went into this new job with that narrative going through my head. And lo and behold, it's the complete opposite. I am so supported. I am so respected.
Amazing.
And it really just shows me how much of a stark contrast it is from where I was, you know, emotionally and mentally to where I am now. I'm getting text messages from our CEO, from our DBD, from our, you know, from my colleagues that work there, that are just showering me with accolades. And I'm like, my goodness, like, knock it off. I'm so uncomfortable, you know? But that's another thing that I'm learning to do is to be comfortable, like learn to become comfortable with accepting compliments and like, you know, accepting how others see you, because that's one thing that I've always struggled with. And I think that also comes from the eating disorder is I've never been able to see myself in a positive light. You know, somebody says, "Oh, you're so attractive." And I'm like, you know, I instantly want to have a rebuttal. Like, yeah, actually I'm not. Like, what, you know, you don't know. But trying to just kind of be like, thank you. I appreciate it. And like learning to like hear that, take it in, accept it, believe it. That's like a 4-process thing, like a 4-step thing.
I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah, it's rough.
It is rough.
But it's worth it, you know, because those affirmations are very positive. And it makes me feel good. You know? I've been there for a month as of today. Today's a month there. And I work for a great program.
So what are some of the things that they're saying about you that you believe today? And say it like you mean it. I
am an asset to the team. I am resourceful. I am connected. I am a force to be reckoned with. I am love. Like that's powerful. That's powerful stuff, you know, and I haven't felt that for a long time. I was very depressed for a while over the past like couple years. Specifically, opening a program is a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of stress that goes into that. You know, not just for me, even for my business partners at the time. Like there was a lot of stressful activity going on, and you know, I had to be able to try to separate that from the friendship that I had with the individuals as well, right? Which was hard for me because I take everything personally, right? Not everything, but like when it was coming from them specifically, because I felt like they gave me this opportunity. And if they were coming down hard on me, I was letting them down. Yeah. Right? So that's when I took things personally because it was all enmeshed and it was really toxic and unhealthy. So the change up is potent. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's different for sure.
What have you learned about yourself the most through this process?
That I'm resilient AF.
Yeah.
Right? As fuck. Like I can walk through some pretty painful and scary shit and not get loaded over it and be okay. I have a great support system. My mother helped me out so much over these last 2 months.
Bless her heart.
Bless her heart, dude. Like I can't. She and I had a nice little conversation about that earlier today. And then I land on my feet. God always puts me where I'm supposed to be. And I believe that I'm supposed to be where I'm at. You know, ownership might not be in the cards for me right now, but I have no doubt that eventually there will come something that in God's timing, I will not be able to question or doubt the validity of, because everything that I have in my life is a direct correlation to where I'm at with God and his plan for me.
What do you tell people that struggle with God, especially when early in recovery?
Your idea of a higher power or God does not have to be some human being or some ethereal being in the sky. I tell a lot of my sponsees this if they're having trouble with it. I look at God as good orderly direction, right? As an acronym to have lead your life by that acronym, because it applies, you know, and it becomes a lot easier for people to stomach that and take that in, and then they're more open to working the rest of the steps, and they see the miracle of their life unfold before them, and that's. I mean, that's tops, man. That's like why we do this. That's why I'm sober. I didn't get sober because life was going to be okay. I got sober to be rocketed into the fourth dimension. You know what I mean? That's some powerful shit. Like that is a powerful phrase. And so like, what do you see when you think of somebody like being skyrocketed into the fourth dimension? You see them blasting off to like new heights that they never thought they'd experienced before. They don't see someone just go whoop, and then it's done. You know, that's not what it looks like. So just give it a shot. Don't look at it as like the God that, you know, you viewed your entire, you know, young adult life being forced down your throat by your parents. View it as something different, as just a higher purpose, if anything else. Like for a long time, my higher power was just the ocean. Yeah. Because I'd walk up to it and like I could put my hands up and try to stop it. But no matter what I do, those waves are still going to keep coming in. They're going to do that shit for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? That's something stronger than me. Yeah. It's not like holding a Bible and pointing down at you. Right. So that's how I looked at it.
Okay. You're such a beautiful example of overcoming, being resilient, that anything is possible, you know, with love, support, God, and believing in yourself, or at least attempting to believe in ourselves every day.
Trying.
You know,
it's not easy. It's not always easy, but it is worth it. Yeah. Because once it becomes a learned behavior, it's just a working part of your mind. And if you can get there, that's a very healthy place to be. And I'm not there yet, you know, 100%. Like I falter, I struggle. I'm human. But I try, and I feel like that's the most important thing, is just to continue to try. Yeah. Right. Keep showing up for ourselves every day. Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, we're all we've got. Exactly. You know? Yeah. At the end of the day, we're all we've got. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for having me. You're such a bright light. Back. Oh, I know. I love you. We're doing this again. That's for sure. All right. Bye, you guys. We'll see you next time.